If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to yWrite. Hi, welcome to yWrite. I'm your host, Angela Grout, and thank you for tuning in to an episode to find out why writers are writing and why you should start writing too. You know, we all have that story inside of us, and how you're going to get it out happens in so many magical ways. I have a guest today in studio that is probably more talented than all my other guests, maybe. I mean, she is a singer, she's an author, she's a therapist, she's an artist. Like, she has a lot going on. And we're going to talk to her today about, the inspiration and how she was able to write 2 children's books. And she just recently released a book that has become the one of the number one new releases on Amazon. She won an award from Writer's Digest. For those writers out there, you know what that means, because Writer's Digest is a wonderful writing magazine. And, we're going to talk about her book SPLINTER and how she got the award, and, how, if you are a writer, how you can apply to get awards too and enter these contests. So we're going to talk today to Betsy Sheehan. She is a licensed therapist and the owner of Creative Hearts in a counseling center here in Western Massachusetts. And like I said, she's got a big heart and she's got big talent. So we're going to talk to her today, not only about, what she's doing in her life, but how it's influencing other people too. So I want to welcome to the show, Betsy Sheehan.
Thank you, Angela. Can I take you with me everywhere I go to introduce me?
Sure. Would you like that?
That was amazing. Thank you.
I can do that if you want. You can just, we'll record it and put it on your phone and just walk into the room now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you and I have known each other for a couple of years now. And I remember when we met, our children were in a theater together.
We even met before that.
Yeah.
At the Springfield Public Library.
Yes. Okay.
When we were both doing an author
when we were
fair.
doing our author fair. Because I'm thinking, which was before and which was after? So yes, we did an author fair. That was like 2019, I think. I was releasing April Rain, April Rain, and you had your children's book.
So that I had
Grace
O'Malley.
Grace O'Malley. Yeah, she had a great children's book. Grace O'Malley still has the great book. And I remember, I was in the process of thinking about doing a children's book, and I was like, how did you do this? Like, how did you get the illustrations and the publications? And, it's always helpful to talk to writers about what they're doing because, it helps other writers. So you've done the 2 children's books, and now you have the book SPLINTER. And all of them, in a way, incorporate you as a therapist, too.
Yes.
So let me ask you about your counseling practice. It's Creative Hearts. And so what do you do? What is it?
Okay, so I opened Creative Hearts this past summer in 2024. And I had previously been a 20-year school counselor. So opening up my own practice was like a next step for me, because I'd like to actually take another next step, which would be to expand it into being more of a community arts center. Mm-hmm. So at this point, my phase 1 was start the clinical practice, get that on the ground, and then hopefully you step into doing a little bit more things like this.
Yeah, and you work a lot with children.
I do a lot of work with children. I do work with people of all the lifespan at the moment, though.
I mean, I think I'm focusing in a little bit on the children because, especially with this book SPLINTER, you're talking about people aging out of the system and the transitions that they go through, and I mean, these are really big subjects of change of life types that not everybody goes through, and the people who do go through them obviously benefit from seeing someone like you. So when you started to do SPLINTERs, tell us a little bit about SPLINTERs.
Yeah,
tell the audience, because it's a great story. It's a story.
It's a story. It's a compilation of things, really. I was taking a class during 2020, and Jess Keating, she's an author from Canada, and she does a lot of children's books, and she was holding something called the Epic Authors Academy. And during that, she had this idea that we want to look at our soul prisms and really kind of piece out the different parts of us. And as she was talking about that, and she also mentioned, maybe you've been working on something, you don't know what it is yet, but you've been working on it your whole life. And so that's really where this came from. It was the moment I was drawing out my soul prism, and I was thinking, wow, like my kids could really benefit from doing an exercise like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to think a little bit more deeply into it, like not only my kids, but I think I have a character that I've been writing my whole life because I've been reflecting on these situations that I was kind of there as a witness to.
Yes.
And like as, someone who was supporting somebody through those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go home for 20 years, right, and either write songs or write poetry, write things together. And when she said, like, maybe you've been working on something your whole life, I went back and kind of reread these things, and I saw the thread, right?
Yeah.
Like, I saw the thread that was the character, and then I saw a thread that was a different perspective of character. So that's where
what
it really
a
came
great
from.
writing class or program that was, because even as you're saying it, it's like, yes, I for myself, like, I just know I've struggled with, saying, okay, this is my life story. These are my stories. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like trying to separate them, but these stories make my life,
Exactly,
and
right.
it's like trying to thread them all together. And it's like, yeah, have you been working on a character? And I mean, I've been working on a poetry book, which this is kind of on the cusp of poetry and story and just beautiful verse, but it carries that character you were talking about through the story. I'm going to show a couple pages of this because I think it's cool. Here's the story. It's very, easy read for sure, but they're all titled. It's like little mini stories in a story, but then you get into these. Oh, where is it? And it's kind of like broken up on the page and things like that, and I'm going to show them your artwork here too, because here she's drawn all of the illustrations not only in the book but on the cover. Like I said, she's an artist. How did you, when you started writing the story itself, did you write it as a story? Did you write it as poems? And how did you figure out how to put it into a book and format it the way you formatted?
Yeah,
That's a lot of questions.
No, it's good. So the idea had come, right? And I was like, oh, let me go back and look at all the different stuff I have. And so I was in a band called Where's Henry way back in the day. And a lot of people from like either Westfield or Chicopee were in it. And we had, they would be like a jam band, and I would put words to it, right? And so they had given me like the music to the words, to a song called Splinter. And it's always hit me as something like...
But it didn't have words?
It didn't have words. I listened to it, with the headset on my Walkman, because they had done it on an audio tape. And so cool. Just like listened to it over and over again. But the word splinter like really hit me. Like this seemed so kind of shattered, kind of like there were different phases of the song. And so I felt like it needed to be reflective of like somebody trying to figure things out and like having multiple perspectives happening.
Yeah.
And so like when I was putting together the book, I looked at those old songs and I was like, well, this is how these would flow together, like if they were a story, and then inserted like, okay, but I want this to happen to this.
So some of these verses are songs.
Some of those verses are from songs.
Yeah.
They've been adapted like to fit the whole thing, but yeah, definitely from a song.
Sounds like that could maybe be developed into like a musical
I would love
play.
that.
Let's do
That's
it.
another goal for another day.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, because I one of the stories I think I've shared with you that I wrote, turned into I now made it into a play, but I actually have added 18 songs to it. But like I would write the lyrics first and then get someone to help me compose the music, whereas I'm fascinated that someone's giving you just the music and saying, create something to go with this. It just shows that everybody has their talents, like I don't know if I could just listen to music and be like, oh yeah, these are the words that go with it. So that's really cool. So this book has a song that goes with it, even though the song's in there, because it's inspired by your band.
Where's Henry?
I would say, oh Henry. Oh Henry's a candy bar. Where's Henry? So Where's Henry is the band you were in, which now becomes a song, which then becomes a book with the story of this. Henry is not a character.
No, there's no Henry in it.
It's Bruin.
He is a character.
Is that how you say it, Bruin?
Bruin and Destiny.
Yeah, because Bruin is Brewen. So when I saw it, I thought Bruin, but my dog is Bruin, which is Boston Bruin. So I was like, that's a neat spelling. But like, you have Bruin aging out of the foster system and kind of telling his story of that thread of life. And I'm sure, the song of, I want to say, oh, Henry again. I think I just need candy. I don't know.
Right, we can be Shakespearean.
Yeah, we'll be Shakespearean. So when you have the book done, you did the formatting.
Yeah.
So you decided how you wanted it all out. Yep. And then you went and had it published. How did you get this great award? Like, first of all, it made it to one of Amazon's best-selling lists, like, right away. And then you get and I'm going to read the award so I don't, like, mess that up. But it's the Writer's Digest Self-Published Book Award that is for, for teen and young adult fiction on physical and emotional abuse. Mm-hmm. So, I want the audience to learn about the categories that you put your books in and how you figure out like the genre and what categories it goes in.
Right. So on Amazon, when you're, so I took the step of self-publishing, and on Amazon, when you're listing what categories it kind of fits into, I feel like there's an algorithm where like you can pick certain things and then it fits certain things because you pick certain things, right? So not everything is controlled by the author. But I think there were subcategories of like, social issues, and then a subcategory of mental health, and kind of like looking at those subcategories. And what's really important is to pick the ones that really fit.
That's what I'm gonna say. You get to pick them, but you can't pick like 50.
No, and you definitely want to like have it matched. Mm-hmm. Like I had posted on like a self-publishing Facebook thing, and somebody was like, well, why is it in a nonfiction category? And I'm like, I don't know why it's in a nonfiction category. I certainly picked fiction, right? Like, so you can go back and I think try to revise it. Mm-hmm. But that's a little bit more difficult. Like, there's not like a direct communication with Amazon,
right? And you, like you said, when the average person is going to Amazon to look for a book, and they're we type in looking for a book about how to deal with children with social, we're putting all these words in. So you want one of the words that someone's putting in to kick into what you've categorized it as. And I think that's right? Because you have your genre and then you have your categories, correct? Mm-hmm. So picking the category, that you're having young adult fiction and that it's not centers, but focuses on physical and emotional abuse, narrows it in. So how do you get an award for that?
So I don't know exactly. You have to put yourself out there for sure. Yeah. Like, that's one of the steps. And I would be cautious about all writers' awards, right? Yeah. Like, not every writers' award is something that like is vetted. And
well, like Writer's Digest, we know is accredited.
Yeah. So I saw the Writer's Digest. They had publicized. They said the reason why I joined that specific award was they were going to give every author feedback on their book that they could use for a review. So I was like, oh, okay, so $100 for some kind of tidbit I could use for a review would be worth it if I didn't win.
Right. Because
to have somebody read it.
That's something, when you do enter contests or if you're entering for some sort of, to qualify for an award, there's a lot of times a fee. Mm-hmm. And that's where you have to be careful of what's legit and what's not. Exactly. Because some people just collect your fee and say thank you for entering and that's it. But like you said, no matter what, you were getting feedback on it.
Mm-hmm. And from Writer's Digest. So like you said, like that's pretty.
And you're going to be featured in Writer's Digest.
Yeah, so there'll be a little blip about Splinter in the April-May issue.
Yeah, very exciting. I subscribed, so I can't wait to see it. The feedback they gave you, what was that like? Like a letter form?
Yeah, so it was like letter form. It looked as though there were certain categories that like each judge reads each book, right? Like, so they really take their time and do this. So it looked like they had some like answers they could select from, but then there was also personalized like little blips that could only be.
I have two of the little blips. Can I? Because I was like, these are so. I mean, this is when you're looking for the book in the store. Sometimes it's on the back jacket or something. These little quotes, like you're saying, that come from the Writer's Digest award-winning author. But it's like. This is how audiences, and readers find your book and say, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting based on someone else's kind of opinion of it. So one of them wrote, writing in verse leaves little room for backstory. So the story moves rapidly, pulling the reader with each chapter. And, when I was showing, the inside of the book here, the fact that it is verses and, not just paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, but it reads like a book. Like it's I can see why you won an award because that's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And then this one I thought was great because it says the author deals sensitively with the issue of mental health without stigmatizing the characters. And, going back to, talking about mental health and, that's huge.
Yeah, that was the most important line to me, like that. Thank you about my writing, but thank you for telling me more so that I can hold somebody with mental health concerns in high regard.
Yes, because, there's so many contributing factors to what mental illness has, not necessarily, hereditary. I mean, just environmental factors, growing up in a foster system, being shuffled from home to home or whatever it is. It's like being able to have that trusted counselor to talk to, and then having that counselor be able to help kind of the world in, this kind of story, or, even guiding other people to view these, I want to say your clients, or, these people, and not say, put that label on them. It's like we all have our...
Yeah, I really wanted to play, ever since I was in grad school, like that's where like the idea of wanting to talk about somebody who was going from graduating from the system, to being independent.
Yeah.
We've gotten better about those things, right?
Yeah.
So, but we're still not awesome about it. And I don't think it's really an area that a lot of people think of, like a child who grew up in foster care system. Where do they go, and what are their supports after they leave it?
Yeah. No, it's... My grandmother was a foster mother for like 45 children in her life, but she's the one that would take them in like temporarily, before they found, housing and housing or families for them. But, it's like she would always share like stories, like, imagining to herself what happened to them and where they went, and creating these beautiful stories for them. And I mean, I certainly hope that happened, but you just never know. And I've met people who have, been in the foster system who were successfully adopted and had the loving, caring family that we all dream of, like Annie, but then I've also met other people who, unfortunately it kind of fell through the cracks a little bit. And, it's like I hear those stories and it's like, okay, how do we help them? I mean, I can't, that's your job.
How do we notice their stories?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So the sensitive subject or the specific subject you're talking about is important. But as a writer, the way you've written it is just exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a little bit of twists and turns in it. But like reflecting on what you said about the foster kids, one of the people I held in my heart while I was writing it was a little girl from about 20 years ago. So she's probably grown now, or she is grown now. And she came into my office at school in Holyoke, and she just slammed her foot down, and she's like, 16. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, 16 different homes.
Oh.
I'm in first grade, and I've been in 16 different homes this year. And I was like, okay, but you're here, and we're going to keep you here. And that's what I think schools do. Yeah. Right? Like, they are the consistent.
Yeah.
Thank God for
100%.
The Bento Act that, like, protects kids with, going through homelessness. Because the days that they show up to school
is consistent.
It
and gives them security.
And people don't know their story.
Right.
Like, they don't think about...
Yeah, their friends, the classmates, sometimes maybe not even the teachers, but, like, knowing... Yeah, I mean, it's just...
And the fact that they can even come to school and function in some sort of way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, everybody has their story, and to be able to share, someone's story like that in a book, whether they're writing their own memoir or as a, for you being a professional, being able to, share a story without, giving away, your client. But at the same time, like, it's just so moving. And, like when you said 16 homes, like, oh God, like, gut punch, because I mean, I lived in one home until I got married. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, my parents, we didn't even move. Whereas, I have a friend who was, they call him like army brat, because I don't know if the brat part is right, but, their parents kept getting shipped. So they moved a lot, but they saw the consistency of their family. And now here, we're talking about these children who are in, just going through something I don't
like
know.
Most adults couldn't handle it, and their little persons are going through it. And so she was kind of like a person who inspired my heart about it, right? And then like moving through it, it's an older character. But that's part of the path that doesn't really get.
Yeah.
Like, how you hold your characters, like, whole history while you're writing about them.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. And let's talk. Can I talk a little bit? I know you didn't bring your children's books, but can I talk a little bit about the children's books? Because I know the first one you did, the Grace O'Malley, The Queen of the Sea. Like, that was a cool book because you had, the children's book, and it was a story about finding things on the ocean. So like that's your first book you published?
Yeah, so it's actually a biography in a way. Like, it's a lyrical biography. Of course, I have to make everything a song, I think. But she was a pirate who lived in the 1500s. And, like, we have some kind of lineage to her. So my mom used to always tell me her story. And, like, I always thought that was, like, really cool because I would pretend to be a pirate, right? Yep. Like, instead of a princess. But it was cool to also have my mom telling me even before, like, it was really, like, the thing to talk about women who were leaders and to tell me that we had somebody who was connected to us that would break, like, good boundaries and, like, make herself.
Well, and I think it's cool that it's a story that kind of came down through kind of the generations a little bit, and I had another guest on the show, Bruce Cones, who, same thing, he taught, his grandmother would always share the story with him. And, like you, put pen to paper, wrote it down into a book, and now it's like, it's there forever for all generations and, people to read. And it's just nice when we can capture something that is personal to us, but becomes something for everybody. Yeah. And I think that's, for me, that's why writing is important. Your second book is still another children's book. And that's is Aggie?
Aggie.
Yeah. Aggie and the Thought Compass. I mean, tell us a little bit about how,
I was like, how do I have a resource for showing kids how cognitive behavior therapy works and why it works, so that it still, like, breaks off from some of the other things, but still related to helping. And I was looking at the word imagination, and I saw I'm Aggie Nation in it. And our imagination is such a powerful tool, right? Yeah. So it starts off with I'm Aggie Nation because we are our imaginations.
So I'm Aggie.
Right? We're all Aggie. And so it just kind of broke down, like, what it's like to think and feel and how those things are connected, and then just kind of work through how to take your thoughts from one place to another and how that affects, like, you calming down. So.
Yeah, I mean, and again, as, a therapist and a counselor, it's such a great thing to have resource books that you write, because it puts you kind of on that expert level, number one, and it allows someone to take home, something that you've shared or you've taught, because it's one thing to, teach and show someone how to deal with cognitive behavior or how to, change something, but when they can go home, with a storybook,
they go home with a compass. So we make, like, little compasses, and they figure out if they're in their realm, like, because we can't see each other's realm, right? Like, inside our internal. Yeah. And so, like, we either map it out or they go home with a compass too. And the compass is, like, what's helpful what's helpful or not helpful, and what is imagined and what is real. And so, like, are you in the imagined and helpful range? Because that's really a great range to be in. And you and I right now, we're in my favorite spot on the compass, because that's between imagined and real. When you, like, imagine a thing and you make it real and it's helpful, that's creation right there. Right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And yeah, so let's go back to Splinter.
Sorry.
No, because I'm seeing how it all weaves together. Do you know what I mean?
I'm so glad, because I feel, like, very splintered.
Yeah, no, I see how it all weaves together, and it's almost like, I'm going to talk like a parable, I think, in a second. But, it's like you have that wooden table, and it's like the wooden table, you have all these pieces on it. You have your children's book to help. You have, we are so multi-creative that, you're like, okay, I'm going to sing, I'm going to write a song, I'm going to write a poem, I'm going to write a story, I'm going to help children. I'm going to use my resources to teach and share interesting stories, not just educational stories, and then it's almost like I can see, like, okay, we're going to grab this piece and say, what, I want to look at this song I wrote, and then, we have a little splinter. And now let's talk about the splinter. And you're, trying to get the story out, but the story comes from the imagination and the creativity and the unreal world. And then all of a sudden you sit down with a guitar and you're making it real.
Yeah. That's the best place to be, right?
Yes, yes. So, so you have the band Where's Henry, which inspires the song, which then inspires the whole story to keep coming forward. So the Where's Henry music, did you write the music?
No, so this music, it got shifted, right? So about when I was in the band about 20 years ago, and they were a jam band, and they had a formula, and I cannot play like they do. They are amazing. And since then, the song, of course, has always been in my head, like the lyrics and the melody. So there's a flow to it that's very similar.
Nice.
But I had to ask my friend Pete Maserati, who plays guitar and is an amazing human being, and he sat down with me and rewrote like the music part.
That's awesome.
So that I could still use the song.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Can we hear it?
Sure. It has not been played publicly.
Oh no! So this is first. This is a debut.
This is a public debut, I suppose.
Oh my gosh! Okay, you're okay doing this?
I think so.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. Well, we have Betsy O'Neill Sheehan doing a debut from her future album. I don't know, but here's a song that inspired Splinters and inspires your life too, I guess. Yeah. So here's Where's Henry.
Like the words on the tip of my tongue that you slipped inside again. Oh, I'm going to go not knowing what the meaning of life is. It's easier thinking that it's all coincidence. Before we slip into a dream, don't take for granted the things are always they seem. There's a million others that walk down the same street, but when it comes down to it, it feels like it's just me. Tell you this, you'll never see me cry, 'cause I hold it in until the day I die. The world it turns, not quite sure why. I just get a little manic from time to time. Tell you this, you'll never see me cry, 'cause I hold it in until the day I die. The world it turns, not quite sure why. I just get a little manic from time to time. All the time, all the time, all the time. On the tip of my tongue that you stepped inside again. Oh, I'm going to go not knowing the meaning of life is. It's so to thinking that it's all coincidence.
Wow. That was beautiful.
Thanks. I think I kind of repeated one of the things, but that's okay.
No, it's
you
beautiful.
just keep going.
You
right?
just keep going because
keep going.
when you're a solo artist, no one knows whenever anything that's out sounds perfect all the time. No, I just I can hear we all have those thoughts inside of our head, and there's so much that we hold back, and it made me think about Henry. I almost was feeling sad for him, because he's got these emotions that want to come out, but he's not going to cry. He's going to keep it till he dies, and it's what a shame if we have to keep these words inside of us until we die. We have to let our stories go. We have to let it flow on the paper. And I can see how, it's a great, I could see listening to that music and writing, you know what I mean? Because it has a really good flow to it and things. And yeah, that was beautiful. You have a great voice.
Thank you.
You have a really great voice. And you play the guitar very well. And of course it's purple, so I love it. And it has a flower on it. Like, right. Oh, God, it makes me want to play, and I don't play. But thank you so much for sharing your song, for sharing your journey with, helping, children and adults with, their, specific issues that they need, and the unique way you've done it through your children's books and through Splinter. Like, I, really hope that people do pick up the book Splinter, especially writers, because I think writers will be really inspired by how you've prosed the book, because I think, a lot of people will start writing like a short story, or they'll start writing a poem and they don't know what to do with it. Like, you're like, is this just an inspiration for a story? Is this story something that needs to be bigger? And, you flowed it all together nicely.
Thank you.
Can you tell the audience where they can get the book?
Oh,
and where they can find out more information about you, and maybe where they can hear you sing?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I have a couple websites. So I have BetsyO'NeillSheehan.com, which is my whole name. And then also creativehearts.us. And that's more tailored to, like, hopefully what's becoming, like I said, like that community.
Well, and Creative Hearts, piece. I want to say you have HE, and then the ARTS is capital letters because it is art. From our heart.
Yeah, so because of that creative flow, right? Like, that's where we can find some of that best stuff and that best.
So the book is on your website.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely need to go to BetsyO'Neill.com.
And Amazon.
And Amazon, yes. So I'll put the links.
And all the book thingies.
Yeah, I'll put the links. So thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been wonderful.
You.
I know I'm going to watch this episode and I'm going to listen to that song again and again.
Thank you.
I can't wait for the single to be released. So, again, we want to thank Betsy O'Neill Sheehan for coming into the studio. And I want to thank you, the listening audience, for tuning into this show every week and meeting, my friends now, that have been writing stories creatively, in poetry and in books and in podcasts and in songs. I mean, there's so many ways to tell a story, and you have a story inside you that, you want to share too. And maybe, like Betsy was saying, that it's just flowing in and out of your head all the time, like that character that's you, but you don't maybe know it's you. And, you're saying, okay, how do I get this down on paper? And there is no right and no wrong way to do it. So, I hope that you are going to take from the show, two things. One is that you can write however you choose to write. And two, I want you to go back and listen to that song. Listen to the music, listen to the lyrics. And I think as you're listening, especially if you're watching this on YouTube, you can kind of, backtrack it and rewind it. Listen to the music and, take your pen and paper out and start writing. Because, of course, this is the time in the show where I'm going to give you that writing prompt so that when the show's over, you can set your timer. But more importantly, if you set it back probably about maybe 7 minutes right now into the show, you'll be able to listen to the music and use that as your timer. And, I want you to sit down and really write down like something that you have struggled with in your life in some mental capacity, something that's really like kind of twisted your mind a little bit, where you're like, what, I don't know why I went through that experience, or, this still bothers me that this happened. And, when you start writing about an experience that you had that still troubles you, you're going to find out that you're going to find peace on the page when you have the story written. So thank you for tuning in to yWrite, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much. Have a great day.